In the land where the tortoise is wiser than any king, a father once made a choice that would change everything. He chose to keep his daughter alive. The king ruled a vast kingdom where even the wild beasts bowed to his word. He was powerful, feared, and proud. And he had a son named Ekpenyon who refused every wife his father chose for him. 50 young women, 50 refusals. The king, furious and humiliated, passed a terrible law. If any man had a daughter more beautiful than the prince's wives, that daughter, that father, and that mother would all be put to death. Now the tortoise, wise, slow, careful, had a wife who was already afraid. When their daughter was born, small and perfect and bright-eyed, the mother said, "We must throw her into the bush. Beauty like this will only bring the king's eye, and the king's eye will bring death." But the tortoise could not do it. He hid his daughter. 3 years he kept her secret, tucked behind the walls of their compound, growing more beautiful with each passing season. Then one afternoon, while the tortoise and his wife walked on their farm, something happened. A bird had landed on the fence of the compound. It sat perfectly still, lost in wonder at the child playing below. So spellbound was the bird that he did not hear the footsteps of Prince Ekpenyon, who was hunting nearby. The prince drew his bow. The arrow flew. The bird dropped inside the fence. The prince sent his servant to retrieve it. The servant climbed over and stopped. He came back without the bird. His voice was barely a whisper. "My lord," he said, "there is a child in that compound. I have never seen anything like her in all my life." The prince broke down the fence himself. He saw Adet, and that was the end of his wandering heart. He stayed. He talked with her. He returned the next morning with 60 pieces of fine cloth and 300 rods as a bride price, sent ahead like a royal declaration. Then he came himself and stood before the old tortoise and said simply, "I want to marry your daughter." The tortoise was terrified. He knew the law. He knew what happened to the fathers of beautiful daughters. But the prince looked him in the eye and said, "I will die before I let harm come to you, your wife, or Adet." Even the queen, when she had set aside her fear of the king, she came quietly to the tortoise's door with yams, palm oil, cloth, and money, bride gifts from a mother who wanted her son to be happy. And so the years passed, 5 of them. The prince never wavered. When Adet was of age, Ekpenyon walked to his father's palace and spoke the truth out loud. The king summoned his people. The royal stones were placed in the center of the marketplace. All eyes turned to the girl as she walked forward through the crowd. The king said nothing for a long moment. Then his expression changed. "She is worthy," he said. He rose before his people and cancelled the law. He called for 8 Egbo messengers, gave them palm wine and silver, and sent them out across the land. The order was dead. No more fathers would tremble. No more daughters would be hidden in the dark. The wedding feast lasted 50 days. 5 cattle were slaughtered. The streets ran with palm wine. Drums never stopped. And when the celebrations finally ended, the king gave the tortoise half his kingdom to govern and 300 men to work his farm. The old tortoise, who had once hidden his child in fear, became one of the wealthiest men in all the land. All of it, the kingdom, the feast, the love, came from one thing: the tortoise's quiet, stubborn wisdom, his refusal to destroy what was precious, even when the whole world told him to. And that is why, in the Niger Delta and far beyond, the tortoise has always been called the wisest of all creatures, not because he is fast, not because he is strong, but because he knows what is worth protecting, and he never, ever lets go. We hope you enjoyed this Nigerian folktale. If you want to hear more stories, please subscribe.